So the way this current mRNA vaccine works is it basically provides your body with instructions to make just the protein on the virus. Okay, so your cell goes ahead, gets the information that comes from the vaccine. And so the vaccine contains, and it's called RNA. So RNA really is just a recipe for a protein. It's not the same as DNA. It's not the original genetic information. It's just a recipe. So the mRNA vaccine essentially contains recipes to make just the spike protein. So that's what mRNA is. And so what's going to happen is your cells will receive this recipe, and they don't care. They don't care what the recipe is. They're like, oh, you'd like me to make protein? Certainly. And so your cells will manufacture just the protein. Now, this doesn't damage the cell because your cell is still doing all of its other things. So it's just going to make a few proteins. It's going to push those proteins out of the cell. And now you've got just the coronavirus proteins. Your immune system continues to do its job. Okay, so here's one of your white blood cells. It sees those proteins and it's going to attack. And the way it attacks the protein is by making antibodies. Now there's a few more steps involved, but that's a pretty good summary of it. And so those antibodies are designed to match up with the proteins that the cell produced. Those are the proteins that are also found on the coronavirus. The difference here is that you don't end up getting sick. This cell is still perfectly happy because it's able to still do its regular cell function, so you have no exploding cells, you won't get symptoms of COVID, and you are developing immunity. Now, this is actually better than catching COVID for a number of reasons. When you actually catch COVID, you can get really serious symptoms. The other thing is, if you are fortunate enough to catch COVID and you don't get that sick, there's a decent chance that you may not actually produce a ton of these antibodies. When they give you the vaccine, on the other hand, your cells produce lots of these harmless proteins that identify themselves as this could be COVID. And so your body has plenty of time to mount a really strong immune response.